What's up, guys? So today we're talking about Chloe Ting and her video on intermittent fasting. Now, if you're a Chloe Ting fan, you already hate me, don't you? You hate my room, you hate my apartment, you hate my beard, you hate my hair, you hate my shirt, you hate everything about me. And that's fine. No one likes to see their heroes criticized, and I get that. If I look up to someone and I hear someone criticize them, I instantly come to their defense. But the only thing I ask is that you keep an open mind. I know that's difficult, but try.
You're not eating for a period of time. Nothing at all other than just like some water, BCAA, coffee, or tea.
Now, one thing to keep in mind, and this isn't a criticism of her at all, is that if you put sugar in your coffee, it's going to kick you out of this fasted state. The human body, for the average person, only has 4 grams of glucose, which is not very much. That's like a sip of soda. So if you put, 1 packet of sugar into your tea or coffee, that is going to be enough to kick you out of a fasted state. The same thing with milk. It's enough energy, enough carbohydrates, enough sugar to actually spike insulin, especially if you combine it with BCAAs, as you can see here.
So intermittent fasting is not a diet. It is a pattern of eating.
So this depends on the definition that you use. One definition is to regulate the food of, especially in order to improve the physical condition. Another one is to select or limit the foods one eats in order to improve one's own physical condition. So it could be. It just depends on how you define the term diet. It's not just a pattern of eating, it is a specific diet.
So it is not about restricting calories.
Alright, so intermittent fasting is a form of caloric restriction. The vast majority of people who do intermittent fasting, it's to lose body fat, which you still need to be in a caloric deficit. So her ignoring calories and saying you don't have to restrict calories is just false. You still have to worry about calories. You don't have to necessarily count them, but they still matter, okay? And this is where I really have a big red flag in my head, because she is just spewing what people want to hear. Oh, if you do what I say, you don't have to count calories. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to actually do the things that matter.
So it is basically a change in lifestyle.
Ironically, the word diet comes from diaita, my Greek isn't that good, which means way of life or lifestyle.
So what happened is that your glucose level drop. So basically the sugar in your blood drop when there's no more food in your system. So what happened is that your body is going to turn to the fat in your body as a source of energy. And that's when you burn fat. Simple.
So it's ironic that she said simple while making it more complicated than it needs to be. Ultimately, it's just about calories. It really is. You're always burning carbs, you're always burning fat, and the balance over time of calories, total calories, not just carbs, not just fat, not just protein, total calories over time compared to what you actually burn is going to be what causes you to lose or gain weight. Not about meal timing, not about not eating part of the day, not about intermittent fasting, not about hormones, not about insulin, not about glucagon, not about glucose, not about any of that stuff. It's just calories. Simple?
So you're able to use carbohydrates and also fat as a source of energy. So carbohydrates during the day when you're eating, and fat when you're in the fasted mode.
So your body's pretty smart. It's evolved over millions of years. It'll use what you give it. You give it more carbs, it'll burn carbs. You give it less carbs, it'll burn fat. That's just how it works, and you don't need to do IF to develop metabolic flexibility. You just eat carbs at some points, or don't eat them, or eat more, or exercise less. It just depends on what you give it and in what ratios over time. That's all.
The second benefit is that you're going to be able to maintain your muscle mass and burn more fat, and also potentially increase your muscle mass.
So there are some studies that say it helps maintain muscle mass better, but there are other studies that say it's worse. So she can find some studies that say yes, I can find some studies that say no, and honestly, in reality, it's probably not that big of a difference. But if you look at the biggest, the strongest people in the world, a lot of them don't really do intermittent fasting. They're basically eating all the time. Why? Because any growth hormone spike you get is going to be far outweighed by the fact that you're not getting in protein. You cannot build a house if you don't have any bricks. You can get more workers, you can ship them over there, but if they don't have any bricks, you can't really build any new walls. You can't build any new tissue in the body. So this spike in growth hormone, it might help you to lose less muscle, but it's not going to help you build more muscle if there's no protein floating around in your bloodstream. So this is completely false, and if someone wants to get jacked, I'm not like, stop eating! No, it's the opposite. In most cases, they want to eat more, not less.
So human growth hormone is basically a fat burning hormone, the hormone that's responsible for growing muscles, and also it is an anti-aging hormone. So it is the hormone that you want in your body.
So it's true that human growth hormone can help you to lose body fat, but in terms of muscle growth, it's not really going to do a lot. For anti-aging, it is pretty effective, which is why a lot of Hollywood superstars do use it. They don't talk about it, but they use it. But in general, I don't think this is really going to cause any kind of appreciable increase in muscle mass, especially if you're not actually eating any food during that time.
Insulin, on the other hand, triggers fat storage. It doesn't necessarily make you fat. Overeating does that, but in the presence of insulin, your body can't burn fat. It is the dominating hormone.
So props to her for actually recognizing that calories do matter and it's not just about insulin. You would be amazed at how many quacks, hacks, gurus there are on the internet who tell people calories don't matter, it's just about your insulin levels and nothing else, which is complete and utter bullshit. So props to her for actually saying that insulin isn't going to be the main driver of fat storage. It is overeating, aka ingesting too many calories.
During this fasted state, your insulin level is going to be really, really low and your growth hormone is going to increase. So that's going to help you to burn fat and also grow muscles.
Here's where she's wrong though. Insulin is actually very, very anti-catabolic and it's actually anabolic. So this is why professional bodybuilders inject insulin. That's how they get so big. That's why the bodybuilders now are much bigger than Arnold. They're like 50 pounds heavier because they are using insulin. So not having insulin isn't going to help you grow muscle just because you have growth hormone, which doesn't even really impact muscle growth. So this is completely wrong, and I don't know why she would say this or think this, because it's wrong.
So the third benefit is that it improves your metabolism. So according to Zona et al. And also Menzel et al., there's an increase in metabolism from 3.6% to 14%.
However, keep in mind that because you're not eating food when you're fasting, you're not going to be spending energy to digest food, aka the thermic effect of food, and so in reality it's basically a wash.
So number 4 is less binging because you only have 8 hours to eat and the chances of you binge is tons less now. Tons.
So I don't know if she's a coach, I don't really know her background, but I'm guessing she's not a coach because honestly, restricting food in the morning, for a lot of people, it leads to binging later at night. They'll order a whole bunch of delivery, pizza, burgers, shitty food because they're hungry because they didn't eat in the morning. So it's sort of individual. For some people, intermittent fasting will reduce their appetite and it'll reduce the calories they eat. For other people, it's completely the opposite. So for her to just say like, of course you're going to eat less, of course there's no problem with binge eating, it makes me think she isn't actually a coach and she's never actually worked with a wide variety of people. I've worked with hundreds of people, and intermittent fasting, it's definitely not for everyone.
So number 5, the chances of calorie intake is possibly lower. Although it's not about calorie restriction, but because you only have 8 hours to feed yourself, the chances of being calorie deficit is a lot higher than, feeding normally.
So again, for some people, and I'm glad she actually said that it's not about the calories, but it is the calories that matter, if that makes sense. But for some people, skipping breakfast and going a long time without food just triggers this like ravenous, hungry beast inside of them, and they just go crazy and consume like 3,000 or 4,000 calories in one sitting. I've seen it happen, it does happen, and it is definitely not for everyone. That's just the reality of it. Everyone is unique, everyone is an individual, and you need to plan for that.
The reason is that it helps you with your hunger hormones because your blood sugar is more steady. So that's gonna help you to crave less sugar.
Again, this is very individual. If you used to start every morning with like a big, fat, succulent, juicy sugar bomb muffin just packed with all kinds of bullshit inside there, and then you just cut that out, you're going to be hungry because your body is used to consuming sugar at that time, and you're addicted. And if you take the source of the addiction away from the addict, you're going to be hungry or you're going to crave whatever that was. And so if you just take it out, it's not going to solve itself instantly. Over time, yes, you might get reduced cravings and you might get less hungry, but it's going to take time. It's going to take a week, 2 weeks, or maybe even a few months.
Number 7, this is impressive because it helps to slow aging.
In mice. Are you a mouse? Do you have a little mouse phone? You're watching my little mouse video on your mouse phone? No. Okay? There is some mechanistic data that it could help longevity in humans, but we just don't know. The medical community is sort of out, the jury is out, and we don't know for sure if it actually helps longevity. It might not. If I had to bet, I would say yes. But her saying, oh, for sure, it increases longevity, honestly, it's just not true, okay? We don't know yet, and if you're a true scientist, if you're a true science-based coach, you should be skeptical. That is a hallmark of science. You need to be skeptical until you have solid evidence, and we don't have solid evidence yet.
Number 8, I personally have experienced this. I felt a lot stronger. During intermittent fasting, I can lift really heavy. I think that's because of mental clarity.
Alright, so she said personally, this is her personal experience, and honestly, if she says personally, I don't care. You know, it's her personal experience, and I'm not going to discount that. It's when she says something like, this is a fact, or this applies to everyone, that's when I get skeptical, or that's when I'll call something out. But if someone says it's their personal experience, like, I did quarter reps and I put size on my legs, but just for me, that's fine. But if they say, quarter squatting is the best way to squat, okay, that deserves some criticism.
The hunger can be mentally or physically, but a lot of times, the hunger that we feel are all mental because we're so used to eating a certain way. So it's just because of our previous eating habits.
So all sensations are mental. Every single sensation. If I pull on my beard, yeah, it's physical, but the sensation is going to be mental. So all hunger is going to be mental. Every single feeling you get, anger, hunger, the combination of the two, it's going to be mental. So thinking like some hunger is physical or some is mental, it's not really useful. There are a variety of reasons you get hungry, but all of it is mental hunger.
I'm going to give you a couple of tips when it comes to intermittent fasting because it can be quite challenging at the beginning. So I personally think drinking tea helps me a lot. You can also drink black coffee with stevia. You can also drink BCAA in the morning. I've just started drinking BCAA before I train.
So this is actually pretty good advice, but remember, don't put any milk or sugar in your coffee or tea, because that's enough of an insulin spike to kick you out of that fasted state.
I have a balance of macronutrients, so I have a balance of carbs, protein, and fat.
I 100% agree. This is great advice. Keep a balance, not necessarily 33% for each, but I would say at least 20% for both carbs, fats, and protein.
Having more fat in your last meal is going to help you feel fuller for the whole night.
I agree. Also, something like a casein protein shake can keep protein going into the system for 4, 5, 6 hours after consumed.
Don't eliminate carbs. Don't forget to eat carbs.
Ironically, she actually has done a keto diet. So she's actually gone on a diet that has no carbs or very few carbs. So carbs are going to be something that's very individual. I would recommend to have a moderate amount of carbs. But again, some people do really well on keto, which has a 0 carbohydrates.
And get enough sleep, because if you don't sleep enough, your hunger hormone is going to spike up, your cortisol level is going to spike up. So just make sure you sleep enough.
So no matter what you do, if you're doing intermittent fasting, your cortisol is going to be higher. Cortisol is a catabolic hormone, which means it's going to be releasing energy. So when you're not taking in energy, your body releases cortisol to help you get the energy you need. So it's a stress response hormone, and not eating is generally stressful to the body. So, spiking your cortisol, it's just sort of a natural part of intermittent fasting. And no hormone is bad, okay? So there's no bad hormones. It just needs to be balanced and appropriate. On the whole, I don't think Chloe Ting is a bad person. I just think that she doesn't have a reliable way to get reliable sources of information. I'm pretty sure she just Googles something and finds whatever is on the first page. Whether it's accurate, not accurate, science, not science, she just spouts whatever she thinks is right, even if it's not right. And honestly, if she has so many million followers, I think she has a duty to check her information better. I don't think she's a bad person. I don't think she's a scammer. She has helped a lot of people. So I think she's a net positive for the fitness community. I just think she could do better. All right, that's all for this video. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, notifications, etc. And I'll see you all in that next video. Peace. Pew.